Right, well, good afternoon, everybody. I hope everybody's okay out there in YouTube land and everybody is fair to middling, if not doing better. And I hope that everything is going swimmingly and in your preferred direction. So, Hazel's taking the kids off for a bit of a walk in the woods and getting an ice cream. We've just been out for lunch. And I thought, well, I told Willow a story the other day that I haven't told you guys. At least I don't think I have. And it's a zoo story. It revolves around wolves, as most of my zoo stories do. Sorry about the noise in the background. It's people walking to and fro through the woods on this beautiful Sunday afternoon where the sun is fair spanking down on Mother Nature. So anyway, it's probably getting on for 17 or 18 years ago now, so it's a fair old way back through the mists of history. And as you guys know, that I used to be a zookeeper, and that's what I've done most of my life, really. Work with animals. I've done a few other things, but mainly work with animals. And it starts on a bank holiday weekend, pretty much like the one that we're in now. I think it was a Monday, and a lady came into the zoo. I was in the feed room, the prep room, sorting out feed to various animals that run in my ward, in my care. The wolves obviously being the main one. And a lady came along first thing in the morning. I think it was about 8:30, so it's pretty fresh. And it was a scorching hot day as well. Even in the morning it was very, very hot. And she came along to the feed room, poked her head through the sort of a half stable door that we had there, trying to paint a picture of this for you, and said to us, "Are you missing any wolves?" Of course, it's a strange question to be asked. And I said, "No, don't think so." And then I spoke to a friend of mine, another keeper, and I decided that maybe it's probably best to err on the side of caution and walk up to the enclosure and do a head count of the wolves. Now, there should have been 3 wolves in there. And indeed, there were 3 wolves in there. So I knew for a fact it wasn't our wolf. So I assumed that it was a mistaken identity, that somebody had seen a dog that looked very, very similar to a wolf and assumed that it was from the zoo because it was that close.
Can I just interrupt you for a little second?
Well, of course you can.
Hi.
Hello.
There are seats in the shade over there if you want to come over there.
No, I'm nice here.
Sure, that's nice.
It's nice and quiet here. That's a what?
Iced latte.
Thank you. I wanted a hot one,
nice.
but thank you.
Okay.
Picky.
Well, you've got a nice one.
Are you going now?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, on your way then.
Bye.
Bye-bye. See you in a bit.
My
Where was I before I was rudely interrupted again and again and again and again? So anyway, she said, I assumed that it was possibly a dog that she'd misidentified. So I didn't think any more of it. But adjacent to the zoo was a private collector who I think had more to do with the zoo than we were actually led to believe. I think he was probably a silent partner in it. But this silent partner, this chap who had the collection of wild animals, in his collection he had a wolf. So I'm not going to tell you who he was. He's very famous. I say very famous. He's quite famous regards the football fraternity and rock bands and pop bands, but that's all I'm going to tell you. So the guy had lots and lots of money. I got on well with him. Very nice chap. Became good friends with him. And I used to look after his animals sometimes if he went away on business. And this guy used to be a globetrotter. He'd travel the world. Although he did tell me once he didn't like flying. It kind of frightened him a little bit. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So I didn't think any more of it. And then all of a sudden, it was on the radio. National radio. There's a wolf escape in where I worked in this part of Britain. I'm not going to narrow it down any more than that because it will give it away. So then the alarm bell started to go, and I thought, well, it's not ours, so it can only be him, only be one of his wolves. So without further ado, next thing I know, over the radio, our closed radios, because obviously we need to keep contact with each other for procedures like escaped animals and checking on where we were regarding the events of the day. So over the radio, they said the police, our manager, who was absolutely useless, to be honest with you, the worst person I've ever worked under. Well, he announced that the police were there and that they were meeting at the main gate around the side. So he gave them some information which was completely wrong. And then when the police realised that I was feeding some information to other keepers to relay to the police about wolves and kind of giving them a, I don't know what you would call it. What would you call it? Building up a picture of what wolves would be like, where to find them, if they're pets and they've escaped, how they'd be panicking. They wouldn't be used to the outside world, so they'd make for certain places. So they called me, the police then got me involved. So I had to go to the back gate where the police were armed to the teeth. I mean, they had guns and everything. Which, to be honest, I thought was a bit in excess of what they... I understand that, you know, to all intents and purposes, it is a dangerous wild animal. And if it escapes, there is a possibility, because it's not frightened of humans and it doesn't hold any fear of humans, that there's no sort of fight or flight there. So it's going to be completely happy to go up to one. And of course, they couldn't allow that. So, because obviously the circumstances might decree that there'd be a problem. So they were armed to the teeth, and I gave them a rundown on what I thought, or what they needed to look for and where the wolves were. Now, by this time, they'd got a chopper up, police helicopter, and that was scouring the area. And there was a report came through that there was a wolf herd howling down by a train station near to where we were. So I jumped into the police car and was zoomed straight down to the station. I had a look all round and it wasn't there. However, I had given them a rundown of where it would be, as I say, and I told them that it would probably be up high, get a vantage point, it'd be up high, and it'd probably be near a body of water. Now, the only bodies of water that was really around there was on a golf course, and that's where they found it. So we shot out to the golf course, and I got out, and I remember there was a police officer behind me with a rifle, and we were kind of going through the undergrowth to where the wolf was sighted and where it was. And I looked around, and this officer had this gun just pointing at me. I don't think he was aware of what he was doing, which was quite frightening. And he said to me, is this wolf dangerous? And I said, not half as dangerous as you are with that bloody loaded rifle pointing right at my leg. Please move it, which he did. So the owner was called out, and he got hold of the wolf. The wolf ran into his arms. I think it was so scared that it was happy to see a familiar face. So myself and the owner got into his car, or his van, because he also had a little van as well. I mean, this guy had lots of money. Collection of Ferraris, collection of American motorbikes like Harleys and Indians, you know, right the way through the ages. A lot of money. And we got into the car and he took me back to the zoo. But before we got to the zoo, we had to pass his house. And we were going to go in there and have a quick cup of tea or coffee. And we had the wolf in the back with us. So as we pulled up right by his house, because he was well known, and also because he collected or had a collection of wild animals, the press were there. They were there. There was no holds barred. TV cameras, press, local press, national press. I think the Sun was there, the Guardian was there, the Mail was there. There was a whole ton of press there. And he said to me, oh crap, we really need to hide the fact that this wolf's here. So what you need to do is, can you put your arm up and block the wolf so that they can't see into the van? Because they were looking at all the traffic that was actually passing by. So I said, okay, I'll do my best. So I've lifted my arm up and tried to block the wolf in the back. Next thing I know, because obviously my arm's gone up, the wolf's got interested in what's going on, stuck his bloody head right over my shoulder and is panting heavily with his head on my shoulder, dribbling down the front of my shirt. And I'm trying to hide him. And of course the press are looking at us. So the more I've tried to move my arm about, the animal, the wolf, was sticking its head under my arm, above my arm, just trying to get a view of what was going on, because he's interested, you see. So he was going to give away the fact that he was in the car and the vehicle that we were in was actually owned by the person who they were kind of looking for a big story. So we drove past, we finally got out of that, and he dropped me off at the gate to the zoo, the main gate, and then he went off somewhere else. And as soon as I got out of his van, walked back across the main gate, that was it. The press were there was photos going off. They interviewed me about the situation with the wolves. And I think I featured in the Daily Mail. It was only a small piece. But it did give away relevant information that we were trying to hide at the time. But they never did get a photo of him, I don't think. I think they put a stock photo of him up. But that was about it. And that was it. It was a very... The funny point was that a couple of the zookeepers thought that because the police had called me in to assist in giving them information, what would you call it? I don't know. Just information about where to find the wolf and that. What they did, like a profile, I guess. Criminal profiler. Wolf profiler. What they did, they interviewed me at length, and as I say, I was in a lot of national press, but a lot of it was, there was only a small snippet in the Daily Mail, but surprisingly they got all my information right. So yeah, that's, I say, getting on for 20 years ago. Oh yes, I was saying, so the helicopter was up, and because there were a lot of the keepers on the ground, thought because the police had called me that they wanted to, they thought they'd stuck me up in a helicopter, which they hadn't. So there's a lot of keepers on the ground waving up at this helicopter, thinking that I was up there and I could probably wave back. Little did they know that I never got off the ground, which was a shame. I wouldn't have minded going up in a police helicopter, but it never happened, unfortunately. But yeah, it was an exciting day. There was a lot going on, and the whole, obviously I've kind of condensed it, but the whole adventure was probably about sort of 8 or 9 hours long, so it was a long old day. But yeah, I remember the police turning up, and they were like kids with toys with these guns. They were very sort of, what do they call it, see who can piss the highest contest. They were nice enough guys, and that was it really. So yeah, so that is the story of the wolf escape when I was a head keeper, a wolf keeper, carnivore curator. So there you go. Hope that's all right. Hope it meets, your expectations, and I hope you enjoyed it. Right guys, they'll be coming back soon, so I will bid you all farewell, and I will speak to you all very, very soon. Enjoy the sunshine, enjoy the weather, but as I always say, when it gets too hot, please keep out of direct sunlight. It will burn you, particularly if you happen to be of the vampire persuasion. Take it easy guys, and speak to you all soon. Bye.